All right, what is up, guys? So we are almost done with this Twitter DM playbook. Today we're going to go over how to carry a sales call, okay? So closing framework, how to close more deals, right? Because you will be getting a lot of sales calls, but it's not enough to just know how to get people on a call. You actually want to know how to carry a sales call and how to get people to buy, okay? So right off the bat, so linked in the same course, we have a doc that goes over the closer framework by Alex Hormozi, which we'll get into right now. But then there's another 4 videos that I highly recommend you check out, especially this one right here. It's a relatively new video. It's a presentation that he has made before. It's just a more recent video, if you will, and I'm pretty sure like this presentation is the same as one of the other ones that I have on here. So just go through the videos. They are relatively long, but honestly, you could watch them in 2x speed and just watch them as many times as you need until you get all the obstacle objections, all the how to handle objections down, because that really is what you want to train for as a closer, or as if you try to close more sales. All right, so the closer framework by Alex Hormozi. Closer stands for clarify, label, overview past pain points, sell the vacation, explain away their concerns. So this is what I was talking about. This is what you want to train for, and then you want to reinforce their decision. Okay, so we're going to go with clarify, right? So you want to clarify why the prospect even hopped on the call, and this is just so you are able to create that gap from where they are to where they want to be. A little bit of this, and this is what's known as the discovery phase, right? Which is why a lot of people just talk about the first call being a discovery call. We're not going to get really in depth into pros and cons of 1 call close or 2 call close. In my opinion, it really depends on how the call goes, right? And the complexity of the sale, the complexity of the prospect. If it's a really complex offer that you want to make that might not be as like productized as maybe some of your other offers, then I would recommend just gathering as much information on a first call and then scheduling a second call, which is where you will be pitching, okay? But either way, if you do 1 call or a 2 call close, and again, I do want to make this clear. I'm not a sales expert. This is just what works for me, right? Again, for sales expert, Alex Hormozi is your guy. But this is what he teaches, and I think this is like an easy way to get a grasp or a quick understanding of how to actually carry out a sales call. Okay, so closer framework. First, you want to clarify why the prospect is even there. Again, to create that gap, and then these are the things that you'll be able to use in the obstacle when they confront you, when they're like, okay, yes, but these are the objections I have. This is the information that you're gonna want to pull out. Okay, so you always want to be taking notes on your sales call, either with a pen, like pen and paper, or like just typing up on your computer. But this, for a lot of people, is the most important part of the sale. So the discovery, right, which is where you figure out, first of all, what the problem is, and second of all, if you can even help the prospect. So it typically goes something like, hey man, so what made you hop on the call today, et cetera, et cetera. Then they'll be like, oh, okay, well, I'm looking for new ways to get clients. My lead pipe is running dry. And then you want to keep asking questions. You don't want it to be like an interview. You just want to have a conversation, but you want to carry the conversation in a way that they will give you as much information as you need to then be able to sell them, okay? To then be able to persuade them that your solution is right for them. And something that Alex Hormozi teaches is, at the end of the day, you and the prospect are on the same team, right? So you only want to help them make a decision. You don't necessarily want them to buy. As long as they make a decision, you should be good to go. And that's something that you're going to learn after you watch these videos, right? Because at the end of the day, like, people don't like making decisions, which is why sales calls are even a thing, right? Because if people just knew they had to buy, or knew that your product was going to help them get from point A to point B, then they wouldn't need a closer, or they wouldn't need a sales call. But you just want to help people. You want to hold people's hand in the process making, or decision-making process, okay? So we're going to clarify why they're even there, and then you're going to get as much information as you can about the prospects. You're going to ask them their niche, their service, they have clients, what's their offer, and then they're going to start hitting you with some questions, right? I mean, they're going to start giving you some answers, and then your brain's going to start going off, and then you're going to know that you're going to like what next question to ask. I don't necessarily like specific scripts. I just kind of, at this point, I just know what information I need to be able to tell if I can even help the prospect out. And then if I can't help the prospect out with my service, then I won't even pitch. But if you can, then it's honestly in in both of your guys' best interest to like make a decision, right? Because if you know that your product or service will help the prospect, then you would be doing them a disservice by not helping them make that decision. All right, so these are just some examples of what you can be asking, right? And you do kind of want to ask hard questions like, okay, well, why is that important to you? Oh, well, because if I don't make this much money per month, then my kid isn't going to be able to go to a private school. Okay, right? And then you can start digging into those pain points. And that will only help you realize that the pain points are even bigger than what they are at face value, right? Because that might be the reason that they are on the call, but they won't say that right off the bat. So you have to peel the onion, is what Alex Hormozi says. You have to peel the onion to get to those to get to those pain points, to then be able to leverage that to close the sale, right? So then after you go through all the questions, right? Or all the information that you need from the prospect, and you know enough about their business or about them, right? Then you want to label them with a problem. So it'll sound something like, okay, sweet, got it. So what I'm hearing is XYZ. Does that sound about right? Or so it looks like you have a lead flow problem. Does that kind of sound about right? I'll be like, yeah, that sounds about right. And then you're going to overview past pain points, and then be like, okay, so you have this problem that you already labeled, right? Because you already know they have a problem because they told you in the clarifying stage, which is still part of the discovery. They're like, okay, so you have this problem, and I can imagine that I'm not the first person you've ever talked to. So can you just tell me a little bit about how you've tried to overcome this in the past? And then they'll talk about maybe they've worked with other people before, but it just hasn't worked. So then they'll tell you what they've done to try to solve this issue, and then you can ask questions on that, like, oh, okay, so tell me a little bit more about that, or how long ago did you do that, or how long did you do it for, or how did that work out, right? So just questions to learn more about what they've done in the past, right? And then, so it's basically what they've done in the past but failed, and then you just want to make sure they know that it's not their fault, right? Happens to everyone, those people fail, but you took the first step and decided to hop on this call, right? And then this is kind of where you start transitioning into the pitch, okay? And if you do a 2-call close, this is where people normally separate both the calls. So they will do step 1, 2, and 3 on the discovery, and then they'll do a recap, and then on the second call, they'll do a recap of what you guys went over on the first call. So steps 1, 2, and 3, just a quick recap, and then they'll get into the pitch, right? And so you sometimes want to ask permission to start getting into the pitch, right? Or sometimes they will just ask you, okay, so how does your program work, right? And then you'd be like, or if they ask that, then you would just get into your program. But if they don't, you're like, would you like to know how the program works? I think you might be a really good fit. I think it might be a really good fit for you for XYZ reason, right? And then you want to sell them the vacation. And Alex Hormozi, you'll see in his videos, but he talks about the pitch actually being like close to 3 minutes, so not a long pitch, and he uses stories to pitch his product because he sells the vacation, right? Not necessarily the product itself. He sells the vacation. And so with these, I just recommend you watch the video so you can come up with your own like 3 things that make clients successful or whatever it may be. Okay, so you want to sell the vacation with some kind of story. And these you do kind of have to memorize, but they're pretty easy to go over. This is honestly one of my favorite ones. So if you sell anything that has to do with accountability, Alex Hormozi has this really cool story. Yeah, I mean, I guess it is a story. Where he's like, when you were a kid, did your parents ever like tell you to brush your teeth? And then they'll obviously say yes. and they're like, you were like, nah, no, I don't want to brush my teeth. And be like, no, you gotta go brush your teeth, and you do, but you'll be all mad. You brush your teeth, right, and then you go back to bed, and then next day it'd be the same thing. You'd be like, no, I don't want to go brush my teeth. Then you'd brush your teeth, and then you'd go to bed all mad. And then you can ask, but you're an adult now, right? And do you still brush your teeth? They'll be like, yeah, because everyone freaking brushed their teeth. And then you can say, oh, well, that's awesome, because that is an example of when you had external accountability that turned into an internal habit. And that's exactly what we're going to do for you, right? So it's just stories that's going to make them connect the dots. And it's really easy to do. You just do kind of, I guess you could steal some of the stories from Alex Hormozi. They'll be in the videos. But then just come up with your own if the ones he has don't necessarily apply, right? And then after that, you can tell them about your program, and then then you can ask if they want to do it. If they say no, you can explain away their concerns, which is the 5th step, right? And then there's going to be their price, decision maker, stalls, right? And then there's a bunch of ways to go over these. For those objection handling skills, I highly recommend you watch this video. But Alex Hormozi, this is just a quick little training schedule, but Alex Hormozi has a book called Gym Launch Secrets, right? So it's basically, he teaches people how to build gyms. It was supposed to be, I'm pretty sure it was supposed to be like an internal book just for gym launch, but then he ended up just doing it for everyone. And at the last part of that book are just all these objection overcomes, right, by Alex Hormozi. And I think a key point is to always agree. So don't say but. Always just be like, I agree, totally agree, understand. So you could either, like, instead of saying okay, yes, but, say like I agree or totally understand, and then you want to move to, let me ask you a question, right? So instead of saying but, you want to skip out on the but, because it's just more confrontational and people don't like it. So just be, if they hit you with, you know what, it's too expensive, totally understand, let me ask you a question. So instead of saying totally understand but totally understand, let me just ask you a quick question, right? And then I would recommend you just read through all these. So if prospect says anything but yes, when you ask whether they're ready to start, you can hit them with these. What's your main concern? Alex Hormozi is a big logical seller, and honestly, that tends to be my style as well. I just think it's the best style to do it, because everything's just logic, and if you can make your prospect understand the logic behind what you're trying to do, then most times they'll just be cornered into saying yes. And I mean, that doesn't sound too great, but if your product is really, really good, then that's the ethical thing to do, right? Because you do want to help them, and if you have a really good offer, you have a really good service, then there really is nothing to feel bad about there. So these are just a bunch of objection handling scripts. Like if they say I need to think about it, people say I don't make fast decisions, I need to sleep on it, I need time to think about it, right? The unicorn close, price value, you know what, I can't afford it, I don't have the money, it's not in my budget, you're gonna spend it anyways. The delayed payment close, if it means a lot to you, know you'll succeed, you'll pay either way. These are all really, really good, so I do recommend you go over these. And then decision maker, this is one of the hardest ones, because it means you're talking to someone that can make decisions. So that's the hardest one, but he goes over how to overcome those objections. Okay, so once you overcome the objections, they pay you. Ideally, you want people to pay on the call, because if they hop off the call and they're like, yeah, just send over the Stripe link or whatever, a lot of times they won't. So you do want to get people to pay you on the call. So you can just send them a quick Stripe link, and then they can just get it settled right then and there. And then you want to move into your onboarding process, which should be really dialed down, should be really smooth, which is part of the reinforce their decision, which is the 6th step in the closer framework. So you can send merch, you can do some quick wins, right? The onboarding process is huge in this, because people will decide if they want to stay with you or not based off of I think it's 48 hours after they buy. So you do want to make sure those first 48 hours are super, super amazing, right? The customer has that there's a great customer experience, and you will be good to go. All right. So again, highly, highly recommend you watch these videos, and let me know if you have any questions, and always be closing, guys.